Yo, 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 yo. Whoa. This is I think this is like Go Deep 170. I'm pretty sure it's Go Deep 170. But Go Deep 170 comes with a special guest. A special guest who goes by the name of Sean O'Connell, that is. Everyone knows Sean O'Connell from Cinema Blend. Journalist at NBC also. In the Snyder Cut, just pretty much we call him the man, the myth, the legend. He's pretty much been holding us down on the mainstream media point of things because, as you notice, a lot of times the blue check people don't like us. But apparently the blue check people are changing their minds. They're admitting they're sorry and blah, blah, blah. And that's cool. But here's one guy who never flipped. Here's one guy who just came in, did what he had to do, and kept it real with everybody. So we're gonna introduce him right now. We're not gonna get into any music or anything because another special thing about this podcast is I didn't have to do much. I let my homie Gio just take over because what we're trying to do, we're trying to make our brands bigger. You know, we all said what we think can help a lot of people out in the movement is that they just start contributing more content. So as we do that, you'll see a lot of stuff changing. You'll see a lot of these guys starting to come together and doing podcasts together. You'll see a lot of cross promotion. But what we doing at Go Deep, maybe we just have to start a Go Deep network. And maybe Gio's the first guy to start doing interviews and shit. Let's get into it though. Go Deep episode 170, no music, straight interview. Sean O'Connell about to drop some bombs, guys. Get ready. Put your seatbelt on. Get your popcorn. Get your cognac. Get your bourbon. Get your vodka. Dave the Film Junkie. Get your vodka. 40 Club, get your vermouth and spritzers and stuff. No, I'm joking. No beef, all jokes. Let's get into it. Go Deep, episode 170. Yeah, bitch. Perfect. All right, this is Go Deep 170. I got a big dog in here today. I got the man, the myth, the legend himself, Sean O'Connell. And I got my tag team partner, Gio. So, how's it going, fellas?
Call it what it is, unpaid management.
Hey, you signed up for this, bro. How's it going, Sean?
Good, man. Good to be with you guys, both of you guys. Warriors in your own right, 100%. I'm so happy you guys had me on. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank
Sean,
you.
the honor is all ours. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So this is more of a Geo day. He has some questions for you, and I'm just gonna let him take it away.
Cool. Yeah. So Sean, I wanted to have you on. You had mentioned that you were up for coming back on to Go Deep, and I thought it was a little poetic to have you come on at this specific point in time when you have gotten to where you are in the book. So I just wanted to go straight into it. Like, how has the book come along? Where are you right now? And sort of just tell us everything you can about it.
It's really funny that you asked me that because within the past 24 hours, the book has become very uncertain. The future of the book has become very uncertain. And let me go off with that right and say that Go Deep was absolutely one of the first podcasts to reach out to me when all of this stuff started. And so I want to give you guys a salute for just having me on in those early days. I'm pretty sure I spoke with the Nerd Queens and you guys all at the same time. And it was just those little bits of exposure and a platform to be able to explain who I am and talk to the Snyder Cut movement and the family. Believe me, went a long way to winning over people to talk to me for the book. And so I'm thanking you guys for that right off the bat, because you might not realize how important that was to me, but it was that support was tremendous. So thank you.
You're welcome.
The reason why I'd say that the book is in a little bit of uncertainty right now is because of everything that's happening around this Man of Steel watch party. So I'm not sure if you guys are going to drop this today. Is it going to drop like right after this or?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, so we're all circling this Wednesday Man of Steel watch party, and everybody's speculating about what could happen during it. And I, of course, am hesitant to say anything with any certainty because I want to be the kind of person, and I feel like I have been guilty of this for the past 24 hours, of raising anybody's hopes up, because we all know how often it feels like we've been dangerously close to hearing something.
Right.
And the tides turn and the wind blows and the deal goes away. But what I can say about the Man of Steel watch party is that I hit the press treadmill as hard as I've ever hit it last night to get anybody who would know to talk to me. And while nobody confirmed what we want to hear 100%, all I was told repeatedly by people who would know is that watch the stream tomorrow. And the intent and the message being sent was, you're going to hear what you want to hear, finally. Kind of thing.
Oh, man.
Now, again, that's just me telling you what I've gone through in the past 24 hours. No one is telling me anything with any certainty, but they're saying watch the stream. Now, we're all going to watch the stream anyway,
Right.
We'd all be dialed in.
Right.
But I've been told don't miss the stream, so I will be on the stream. Now, let's talk about that from the book's perspective. The book is done. The manuscript is finished. It was due to the publisher on June 30th. So I planned on spending the next couple of weeks running it past friends who are editors. It really, truthfully, the entire manuscript has not seen that many eyeballs. I've sent 1 or 2 chapters to people to read over certain things because I wanted them to get a sense of where I was going. I'll tell you guys, there's a chapter in there. So the book covers the Zach's introduction to the DCEU. The not a deep history, but a history of Marvel and DC and kind of how they both came up through their film productions.
Interesting.
The establishment of the MCU and a little bit of what DC was chasing, when they wanted to catch up with that. It goes through Man of Steel, it goes through BVS, and then it goes into the production of Justice League. And I have a lot of stories from when I got to go to that set. And then I have reporting on Zach leaving. And then we get into, from that point, it picks up with the story of the movement and how the movement started to piece things together and scour through trailers and footage to find scenes that didn't show up in theatrical. I have some really great stories from people around the time that the movie, that theatrical cut came out.
Okay.
I have, and then I get into specific details about accomplishments that the movie has, that the movement has achieved, essentially. And we get into Project Comic-Con, and we get into the Times Square billboard, and I've got photos of Geo with Rob Liefeld.
Day of my life.
So I really tried to touch on as much of it as I could. I tried to get all of that into the book, right? But the ending was always, look, if it was either going to be a quick resolution to this Snyder Cut stuff, or it was going to be a Donner Cut situation where you're talking 25 years.
Right.
And who knew? No one knows, right? So I always argued, and I might even said this on your show, that the book needed to work without the movie. I needed the book to be a standalone thing, whether the Snyder Cut never came out or not.
Right.
But guys, I'm having a really hard time processing the fact that a month away from me having turned this book in, that this is happening right now, because it's the perfect time.
Yeah.
Right.
From a book standpoint, it's the perfect time.
So what are you thinking right now? Are you like looking at it and saying, well, maybe I can hold it like a couple of weeks and maybe add reactions? Or do you see it as something to like build up to the date. Let's say that the date is further out, than within the next few months.
Yeah, that's a great question, and a lot of that will come from whatever we learn on Wednesday. And I've spoken to my publisher. He's fully aware of the situation that we're in. He knows that he wants the better ending, which is the movie coming out. That's the better ending for the book.
Right.
And literally what I'm told from their perspective is it's great that this is happening now and not when we're in the printing stage.
Right.
This is the right time for there to be a delay. So it might mean we push back a little bit on when the book is coming, but it's the greatest possible reason for why we'd have to push back.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that is for sure. I mean, you shared the last words of your book, which I'll let you speak about them. I feel like they'll be relevant regardless, but that is for sure, I think probably the best way to end it.
Well, and I don't want to give too much of it away, but I think people who are listening to this are gonna hopefully get the book regardless. My ending for the book, because I didn't know what was going to happen with the film, is where I came up with the idea to let people send a message to Zach.
Right.
And I essentially said, in a nutshell, that since we don't know the ending with the film, I'd rather give Zach's fans the final word. And I asked everybody to submit, their messages. And guys, when I tell you, so I received 164 messages. I believe that's the count. And they're all in. I put every single one of them in.
Oh, wow.
And all it means is that the book is longer than I anticipated. And what's the harm of that, in my opinion?
Right.
Now, you might get to that final chapter and be like, I don't want to read everyone's message. I just want to go through and find mine. Cool. Go through and find yours. But I'm telling you, if you read the messages that people sent, guys, they're the most touching, heartfelt. I mean, it's still to this, even after covering the movement for this amount of time, it's still stunning to me how influential Zach is on people's lives. His films have changed people. His films have inspired people. Those messages, to me, make the book better. And someone sent a message that ended with, "This is for Autumn." And the minute I read it, I said, "Well, you're going last."
Wow.
You're going last, because that's what I want the final sentiment in this book to be. Because the book, look, I don't know Autumn. I know nothing about the pain that Zach went through, that Zach and Debbie, the situation they went through. Right. But I do know that tragedy put the Release the Snyder Cut movement on the path that I wanted to cover, which is the charitable aspect of what they do. And so that seemed to me like the right way to finish it.
Yeah. Wow, that sounds beautiful. And it sounds like that chapter will play almost like a yearbook, almost like, for everyone involved. It's something to look at and sort of see, because we've been part of Twitter for most of this. So we see everyone in these contained character spaces, and the messages that we get from people are so contained. So to be able to see a little bit more of what everyone thinks, and to be like, oh, this is this person and their thoughts, I think that'll be really nice for the movement.
It's also tremendous to see, because some people put in, if they put it in their message, I tried to keep it where they're from. So it really does show the global representation of the movement. You'll get people checking in from India. You'll get people checking in from Asia. I have the Moldavian Superman. That dude who created that video, I saw his video where he's on the pier with the islands all around him.
Yeah.
Released the Snyder Cut. All these people chimed in, and then of course all over the States, people weighing in, and Europe, a ton of people from different countries in Europe. So it's literally voices from around the globe explaining to us why they're involved in this movement. And so let's say case in point that we get an announcement about the movement. The book is going to have to change, because a lot of the book was written from the perspective of, if this happens, should it happen, things like that. But I'm going to fight as much as I can during the rewrite to maintain that those sentiments remain the end of the book.
Yeah, and I mean, it tells a story, right? Like if you're reading along, and I guess it's going to be hard for anyone to pick that up and not know the end point. But we saw this, with the Last Dance that just came out. It's like people knew how that would end, but still the buildup was there. So like I feel like you could still do that.
I hope so. Yeah, I absolutely hope so. And again, that's the ending we all want. The book is instantly better if I'm able to include. And then he announced, this is what's happening. So
Right. Awesome. Take me a little bit through this writing process. It felt like when I looked at the podcast, it was like 4 or 5 months ago that you started this, and it felt like this happened really quickly. And I know there's the pandemic that's going around, and that sort of definitely maybe like gave you extra time to do it. But can you just take us through like the writing process? Like, was it fast how you got to it, or is this yeah?
The idea first crossed my mind during, Project Comic-Con last year.
Okay.
It was 2019 when the billboards and the takeover.
Yeah.
And I was there covering it for Cinema Blend, and I saw the bus stop billboards, and I thought, wow, these guys this is bigger and more organized than I had anticipated. Because up to that point, I was aware of the movement, but to me, it was a social media thing.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point on, so that would be July of 2019. It was in the back of my mind of, I think there's a bigger story here. And around September, I spoke to Maddie, Chris Coelho. Do you guys know Matthew? Chris Coelho?
No.
He goes by Leonidas on.
Okay. Yeah.
I might have just.
I know him as Leonidas.
Cut that out. No.
He's from your neck of the woods, Gio.
Yeah.
He's from your neck of the woods.
I know him personally. I did a project near Comic-Con with him. I just call him that.
So it's bizarre that he and I have a very, very close mutual friend.
Okay.
Someone I grew up with is very close friends with one of Maddie's really close friends.
Interesting. Okay.
Friend of a friend of a friend kind of thing. And they know that I write for Cinema Blend, and they're diehard superhero movie fans, and we're always texting each other kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I reached out to them and I said, don't you have a guy who's like really into the Snyder Cut? And he said, yeah, I have this guy. So he put me in touch with Leonidas, and I just started asking him a couple of questions, like, why are people doing, like, what is this? Explain it to me. And it was, he started telling me about New York Comic-Con and the plan, because this was coming up after San Diego. So, a lot of details. He sent me the, let's see, how did this work out? Okay, so this is right around the time. So, I'm sorry to bore you guys with details.
No worries.
It's all good.
July, I got the idea at Project Comic-Con. August, I sat down and kind of worked out. Oh, and I asked another guy, a friend of mine who's working on a book, just how he started. How did he start? Writer. He was a film critic with me for a while, and he's branched out into sports writing, and he has a book coming out about the NBA. And I just kind of asked him questions about like, how did you start, sort of thing. And he walked me through it, and he shared with me his template for a format that you have to send around to publishers.
Okay.
And, I talked to my wife about it, and, she's super supportive. And I just said, like, this idea is gnawing away at the back of my head, and I just think I have to start exploring it. And that's, guys, what I'm telling you, don't write a book. It is a lot more work than you anticipate. But
a close friend of mine, she's been writing a book now for about 2 years.
Okay.
That's why I asked you about the writing process.
Like a fiction or nonfiction, or what is it?
It's a fiction. She wanted to do a nonfiction. It's a fiction based off of a real life event. So, yeah.
When I tell you that you live and breathe this topic for the duration, it's literally all you think of. And unless you are super, super passionate about it, don't start, because it'll consume you. But I put the format together, I put the pitch together, and it was pretty interesting. I'll tell you, when you sit down and start to lay out what you think your chapters might be, it kind of structured itself. Like I was kind of like, well, then I don't want to talk about this, and then I don't want to talk about this, and then I don't want to touch on this, and the structure kind of laid itself out. Mm-hmm. And you could almost see it. You could see it. You could see like, oh, this is actually, this might be. So I went out to a lot of publishers, and they got back to me and said like, this sounds like a pretty interesting article, but I'm not sure there's a book there, you know? And I would say, all right, that's fair. That's your response. And then I started to think that too, you know, oh, wait, is this really just a long article kind of thing? And somewhere in the middle, I was explaining it to my wife, who is not a comic book person in the least bit. Right. She knows that I am full throttle. And I was trying to explain to her why this story was so interesting to me. And she looked at me at one point and she said, yeah, but why do they do this? Why is everybody so invested in this? Like, I get that there's a movie that they think they want to see, but like, there's a lot of movies that people feel they want to see. How come people are willing to give this much of their time and effort and their passion to this particular film? And that was the smack in the head moment where I was like, I don't know that. I really don't know why they want to do this. And why don't I start asking them? Like I do a podcast and I do it with these two guys, Jake Hamilton and Kevin McCarthy. And Kevin was telling a really funny story where we had the director of Scoob on. Yeah. And this guy was also the director of animation for Space Jam. He did all of the animation that went around Michael Jordan. And Kevin was talking about the fact that like, he was just watching The Last Dance recently and they had all the Space Jam and Jordan working around it, and he kept watching and thinking like, how on earth did they back in, was Space Jam 96?
I think it's 96, yeah.
How did they do that? And then here we are on the phone on a Skype interview with the guy who actually did it, you know. And Kevin was able to say, oh, I can just ask you, how did you do it? So I was in touch with all these Snyder Cut movement people, and I was asking them for like specific details about the Project Comic-Con and about New York Comic-Con. And then I started to change the line of questioning, and I just started to say like, okay, cool, I love that you guys are doing this and this is all really great, but why are you doing this? And as their stories started coming back to me, they were really deeply personal. They were rooted in a lot of, artistic integrity was a huge thing. Yeah. Defending Zack, loving the DC characters and feeling that they really were shortchanged. And then we got around to the amount of people who wanted to raise money for mental health and suicide prevention. And once all that laid out, I was like, that's what elevates this movement. That's what sets this story apart from I want to see a movie that I didn't get to see. And once I felt like I had all those pieces, I just sort of sat down and followed the structure that I laid out back in August. And the damn thing wrote itself.
Wow. I remember, I guess a slight spoiler for your book, I remember answering some of those questions. And I guess probably Maddie put you in touch with me or something like that, because, I worked with him. But yeah, no, I think that's incredible. And then through that, like, you've become part of the movement. Like, I see you out there, you speak about like your co-hosts on Real Blend, Jake and Kevin. And I remember sending out a tweet to Jake maybe a month ago. And he's like, no, I speak to Sean about this, and he really like got me to understand it. And it's been great to have you sort of as an advocate, with your history in film journalism. Like, I sort of look up to you a lot, sort of like what you're doing out there. And we can speak about that in a little bit later. But it's been great having you like be part of this and having you like actually become part of the story.
Well, and it's a little bit of put your money where your mouth is, right? Like, right. I think that there was a benefit to me not being part of the movement, like still being an outsider journalist trying to cover what's going on, because it gives me a perspective that's a little bit removed, and I can put things into a context. I think that helps. But also, and this goes back to what I was saying to you guys, that unless you deeply care about something, don't try to write a book about it. Like, right. Over the course of researching all of this and over the course of putting it into a story, because I like to just think that I'm a storyteller. And I don't know if the book works. I hope it works, and I hope that it's an interesting story. The people that I've shared it with recently, and it's finished manuscript stage, although I hope to God it blows up tomorrow. They said, well, what am I reading for? Like, am I reading for facts? Am I reading for grammar? I said, I'm not concerned about that. Just tell me if it's interesting. I just want to know that the story that I'm telling holds your interest, whether you know a single thing about this movement or the movie, or if you're just a Joe Schmo who picks this book up, and decides to give it a shot. Mm-hmm. So that's my goal. My goal is to make it interesting. But the longer I've spent in this, and now it's been coming up on a full year of being immersed in it, mm-hmm. I believe it. I believe in it too. I believe that the cut should be out. I believe that atrocity that I've watched repeatedly over the course of putting this book together, because I'm telling you, I've gone through and watched theatrical cut so many times now, mm-hmm. and watched just blatant shifts of Zach footage, Whedon footage, back to Zach footage. Like, I can't, it's such a Frankenstein monster. And I have said this before, and I still stand by this, like, if that was your DC fans' hope for the Infinity War Endgame version of all those characters together, and that's what the studio gave you, man, fuck them. Because it's just an insult. It's such an insult. That's still a primal element of it, of just, there's a global fan base that was dying to one day see their beloved Justice League on screen, and that's what they got. I'm horrified for you guys.
Yeah. So that's such a great point. So when we talked about the movement, and like I remember being part of the early stages, one of the hardest things we needed to get over is that we needed to make people realize that this was more than just about one movie. So one of the taglines that we used to use and we still use is that this is about artistic integrity. And sort of like tomorrow, let's say something happens, let's say, everything changes tomorrow and we have a date and it gets released. What do you think in your professional sense, like what sort of doors are open now that this happened? Like, what does this mean for Hollywood that is going through a lot of changes right now with everything going on? But what is this specific event? What would that mean?
It's a great question, because I would almost want to hear, let's say if and when it gets announced tomorrow. Let's say if it gets announced tomorrow, some of the things that I'll really be listening to in the explanation, if we get a lengthy explanation, why now, right? Mm-hmm. Like, was it the fact that the pandemic has decimated the theatrical experience and Warner Brothers needs a boost? I don't necessarily believe that, because I think Warner in particular has a pretty strong slate coming with Nolan's movie Tenet. Mm-hmm. They have Wonder Woman 1984, which they have 100% confidence in. They've mm-hmm. got Dune on the horizon, which it's to me, doing science fiction, whether it's going to be a blockbuster or not. I don't think that they're necessarily as hungry for a hit as someone like a Paramount or a Universal might be. Right. Or is it really HBO Max or AT&T representatives or Warner Media executives? Or, there was the one of the party lines spouted by the movement, and I was never able to find like legitimate proof of this, was that, specific executives wanted Zach out. I don't know how factually accurate that is. Do I think that there were circumstances that conspired to shift away from the type of storytelling that Zach was doing? Yeah, I feel more confident saying that. Okay. But I have not been able to prove, and I don't personally believe that there was a conspiratorial, we're going to do this to undermine him, to get him out. I honestly believe in the grand scheme of things that the Snyders had a tragedy. The executives at the time saw an opportunity to bring in somebody who superhero ensemble experience and could also give them the lighter tone that they probably wanted. But I don't see it as a conspiratorial effort to force Zach out. I don't. And I was never able to prove that one way or the other. But what was I saying with that? Where was I going? Oh, if this February screening that happened was now in front of a group of executives who truly could have said this. Now, I know that the screening happened, and part of the reason why I wasn't able to report on it is because I don't to it. No one who went has been able to tell me with 100% certainty who was there or what came of it. I just know that it happened. I know that it happened. Now, they might have saw what they saw. And again, this is kind of gets into I want to hear what the explanation as to why now is. If it's HBO Max, if it ends up HBO Max as the destination, HBO Max could honestly look at it and say, okay, and again, this is pure speculation. They watch it, they say, it's good, it's not great, doesn't matter. This is the splashy title that we need to get subscribers. So what do we need to do to get it out there? You know? Or they may have said, it's horrible, but we don't care. Everybody wants it. Give it to us. You know, here we go. Or they may have said, oh, this is great. It's 4 hours. This is great. Could we divide it up into a multi-part piece that we stretch out? And Zach might be behind it. We don't know any of these specific details, you know?
Right.
Yes, you might hear it's coming. Yes, you might hear that they're going to release the Snyder Cut. But what does it mean? We need to know what that means, because I think the questions that will come out after you find that out will dictate what's moving forward. Is it really just a title that could lure people to HBO Max? Is it something I 99% don't believe it's going to go theatrical. And part of the reason why, even if there was a smidge of a chance of it going theatrical before the COVID-19 disruption, the COVID-19 disruption is I think taking theatrical off the table for it, because you have movies like, you know, Judd Apatow's latest comedy, and who knows what other shoes are going to drop in that. They can't find a theatrical window. There's so many blockbusters that are waiting to play in theaters that could potentially be handcuffed by the fact that they're going to be 50% capacity or under that there's just not going to be a screen available for Snyder. So he has to look toward a streaming service like HBO Max, and I hope guys, a DVD Blu-ray component that people can own, because I think this fan base wants to own it.
Hell yeah.
Right, for sure. And then I guess, and you can let us know like how this would work. Something that's definitely been one of the questions that we've heard all over the place. Like, people I think are starting to realize that theatrical is tough in this situation. We don't like the word impossible in this movement, so I'm not gonna say that.
I've learned that.
But you know, let's say one of the things that I've said, and I would love to hear your expert opinion on this, is that, all right, well, if it's out, it's out. Then getting it in the theater, because really what we mean by getting it in the theater is that we've been in this with all of our friends for so long, and we'd love to at some point sit down in the theater and watch it together. It's not a matter of like, oh, I need this movie to like make Avengers monies or anything like that. Like, it's not that. What do you think the possibility of that is, at a later point? Obviously not, at this state right now, but
that's a great question. And I would put it along the lines, I believe, of what they were going to do at BVS in Detroit, where you would get a one-off theater that you could potentially rent. Now, with that, you have to. I believe they probably had to rent the title, unless the stipulation would be if Zach has reels, and if Zach is sponsoring these. Which, if I'm him, why wouldn't you do a Kevin Smith type roadshow?
Absolutely.
Where you bring it around, and give the people the chance. It's possible he's working that into whatever negotiations that he's coming up with. And again, that'd be another question that I would want to hear after, like, it's really funny. Like, everyone's fighting for release the Snyder Cut, but release the Snyder Cut is like step 1 of 10.
Right.
Yes.
We also need to hear it.
I keep saying that.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like, that feels like the finish line, and it is, without a doubt, it is. Listen, if there's an announcement tomorrow that you won, you've won. You know, that's it. But then there's a bunch of other questions that need to get answered. And I would love to think that Zach would do something like that, where he set up screenings. And again, it's just so much of the uncertainty is around the coronavirus and what you can do. You know, a month ago, if Zach were to say, no, this is not a fair comparison because I think the movement would do what the movement does. But if Zach set up an AMC in Pasadena and said, I'm airing it this weekend, come, you know, we'd all go.
We'd be there.
You'd be there. And if he did like LA, Chicago, New York, you know, on consecutive weekends, you would plan around it. So that's a possibility.
Yeah, I remember when BVS Ultimate Edition was announced, and this is a free running that WB did, I guess, to promote it. But they ran it at the Angelica and a few other theaters where they were just like, here, sign up. You know how you sign up for like free screenings for like a pre-release or something like that, like the week before. They were basically they ran that out, and those theaters were packed, and it was crazy to see BVS at the Angelica. That is like, you know, top beating Rob Liefeld and like talking to him about the Snyder Cut. That's number 1. And number 2 was that. And I'm sorry to my future wife that I'm putting all these moments above her.
Now, also, someone said this to me, and they're right 100%. You know, right now, the first movie due back in theaters is this Russell Crowe movie in early July. And then after that is Christopher Nolan's Tenet, which is July 17th. And then Mulan is down for the week after that, 24th. But who's to say that the theaters open in early June, mid-June? They have to program retro programming because they don't have anything new to put up yet.
Exactly.
They have to work out the kinks of how their process is going to work in terms of fielding patrons, you know, with their employees, experimenting with booking tickets for 50% capacity. I'm saying 50%. It could even be less. I'm not even quite sure. We know theaters are going to open, but we know when they open, there's going to be a week or two of of, is anyone coming back? What do we even have to show? You know, you're hearing that Warner Brothers is going to use the Dark Knight trilogy in Hong Kong, I believe, and the Harry Potter films in China. What if you put the Snyder Cut out? You know,
right?
What if you said we're going to be the canary in the coal mine, and we're going to take over screens, and if you guys want to come. But even at this, guys, let's say this. Let's say it goes to HBO Max, hypothetically, in like middle of August, right?
Yeah.
And everybody watches the shit out of it. Right? I mean, just like on a loop. And then around Christmas time, Zach comes out and he says, hey, I'm going to do a 1-week run in each of these cities. Are you going to go again?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course you are.
Absolutely.
And he knows that. So whenever he unveils his plan, he knows that all of us are in. We're in 100%.
Right, because I think, like, you mentioned Kevin Smith's run, and I think, like, what was learned out of that was that he was going around, he was doing the Q&A, and it was more about, like, being with Kevin and watching that movie after all that time that, you know, we finally got Jay and Bob back. So I think it's the same thing. Like, you know, I guess in that situation, we hadn't seen the movie yet, but I still think that the fan base is there. They could have seen the movie and they'll still make it to the screening.
Well, and everybody who I spoke to who was at SnyderCon in Pasadena said that it doesn't matter how many times they saw BVS, seeing it in the same auditorium as Snyder made it the best viewing of that movie they've ever had. So
yeah, I mean, I was gonna fly out to Detroit just to see BVS with, you know, a couple of the people in the movement.
I was there. I had my ticket.
Me too.
I'm still so bummed that all this shut down right before that.
Yeah. Sean, we are sort of creeping up on the amount of time that you have, so you let me know if you have a little bit more. But I did want to ask you some questions about what you're doing with Cinema Blend and Real Blend right now. So you let me know.
I'm good for a few more. Yeah, honestly.
Okay, cool. So I guess to wrap up on the story for tomorrow. So you have the book coming along. Everything could possibly change. I guess. Do you have any like advice for the movement at this point? Like, how does the movement approach this? Like, in your opinion, like how do we go past this point? Like we mentioned, like this is step one. There's still a lot there. So what is your just general advice? As someone that's part of it, that's written about it, that's been outside of it, and someone that's obviously in the film journalism business and sort of knows how the field could be.
I just want everybody, honestly, and I'm speaking to myself, to enjoy it. I want to enjoy of sooner rather than later, we're going to be able to watch this movie. Everything else that comes on top of it, the constant social media presence, the troll fights, the doubting the haters, the infighting in the community,
Right.
like all of that has to be put aside for the fact that you're about to be able to see Zach's vision.
Right.
Because at the heart of all this, the root of all this, everyone who got involved in this, I have to believe, 100%, maybe it's more like 95, because 5% of the people probably have ulterior motives. 95% of the people who said, I want to be part of that movement, want to see what Zach put out.
I agree.
And I'm having a conversation with Michelle, with my wife, about this, and I'm like, you don't understand what this means. Like, I might have to rewrite the book. I might have to do this. I might have to do that. And I was listing all these things that might come from tomorrow. And then I got to a couple of items deep in that list, and then I was like, and holy shit, I'm gonna be able to watch Zach's Justice League.
Yeah.
I forgot that that's it. That's
Right.
the thing.
Right.
That, sooner or later, this grail, this legitimate grail that you're gonna be holding the grail.
Right.
And you're not gonna think about all the difficult steps that it took to get there. You're actually gonna be able to look down and hold the grail.
Right.
Right.
And I want everyone in the movement to stop and just appreciate that moment. That and this too, because I don't think he'll ever say this, because he's extremely humble. But Zach would never, from an industry standpoint, would never have the ability to get this done if not for everybody's hard work. If the hard work of all of his fans. And you all probably don't want to hear this, but if everyone had just moved on, he'd be doing Army of the Dead right now, and nobody would be talking about it. Tell the Alita people, where's Robert Rodriguez is a great guy, but he's not backing that movement the way that Zach backs his movement.
Right.
There's countless franchises that have disgruntled fans because things didn't go the way that they want to go. Ask Edgar Wright and his Ant-Man movie.
Yeah.
Everybody just moved on. They accepted it. Oh, we're going to get a Peyton Reed version? Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
We'll keep going. But you guys didn't give up. You didn't give up, and it allowed Zach to keep fanning the flames until the right people heard the message. And just appreciate it. Just enjoy it. Take a couple of days. Take a fucking week. Just enjoy it. Enjoy it. I just want everybody to enjoy it.
I'm staring at the bourbon that I will be sipping.
Yeah.
Yes. And you know what? Turn off all your devices
Yep.
and just sit in it.
Yep.
Yep. Sit outside and watch the trees move.
Yep.
And just think, we did it. That's it. Don't react.
Yep.
Don't engage. Ray Fisher said it. Don't feed the trolls.
Yep.
There's even a lot today of people commenting like, well, where are all the apologies from the people who fuck the apologies. Who cares? Who cares? You focus on it, and look, I'm guilty of it too. I'm tweeting the same stuff. But every once in a while, I'll sit there and I'll just think we may actually be able to see it. We might actually be able to see this movie that they told us didn't exist, would never come out. and it's not going to be any different than what's in theatrical. And guess what? Guess what?
Man, you.
And I want to take, Peter, I'll give you really quick. I just want to take that opportunity to also say, like, I feel like this message, I'm not a perfect speaker, but like we've been trying to like put this message out, like we want to enjoy this moment with everyone that we have done anything in this movement with. We want to like do this together with me personally, I've been in this for like almost since the beginning, so 2.5 years. Like it's crazy how much time I've dedicated to this. So we want to be able to enjoy it with like everyone. And I think that's such an important thing to think at this time. Like, fuck everything that like every little bullshit thing that happened along the way. Like at this point, forget it. Peter, you can say what you're gonna say.
No, I agree. What he said, he summed it up perfectly. And just listening to y'all talk, y'all hit every point perfectly. I couldn't have done that myself. So this is Gio's show today, and y'all did a great job.
Really quick, I do have something to say.
Do you know how long that screening of Man of Steel is going to be tomorrow? Like, I wish that he would let us off the hook and make the announcement at the beginning. Because we're all going to watch the movie and just wait. Come on, Zach.
Let's just say that. So the movie's what, 2.5, right? That movie?
2:25, yeah.
2:25, and then if I remember from the last time, it took about 10-15 minutes for it to start. And last time it ended pretty much at the end. Like he didn't really he took a couple questions at the end, and then we had the infamous ending there. So I want to say probably like somewhere around 3 hours. If I was a betting man, let's just say, and I hope that none of my bosses hear this, but I moved around a lot of meetings for tomorrow to make sure that I'm there.
I honestly don't know how Vero's servers are going to handle it tomorrow. Like, the BBS screening was pretty big, but again, that was one where just like he got on after the watch party that Dave and Meg put on. If I remember this correctly, didn't he just get on at the end of that and then like?
No, so at the end, the Dave and Meg one, he had a recorded message that he sent.
Okay.
Out. Yeah, and then
let's do it tomorrow, right?
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
But now this is 2 days of preparation, and in the interim, almost every trade has run, hey, he might announce during this.
Yeah, plus they're telling, people around the press, like, hey, look at this thing. So, yeah, it'll be more people.
Those Vero servers are going to be insane. I did tomorrow. So I have never, honestly, and I've been doing this over 20 years. This is the first time I've ever been compelled to. I'm sorry that I'm talking so much, guys. Tell me to shut up.
No. Please, you were the one that said that you had 30 minutes. You can keep talking.
Keep it up.
I've never been compelled over the course of my career for the various things that I've covered, and I've been lucky to cover an awful lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I've never been compelled to write a book about something. This is the first time where I was like, this story is so crazy that I honestly want to tell it in great detail. And now that it feels like there's going to be some closure, like actual closure, because even still, telling the whole story, there was always the cliffhanger of just like, okay, cool, but what if we never see it,
Right.
And the idea that potential for closure and that I'll have a document of it all is so, it's overwhelming and it's satisfying at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of it. I hope that everybody's happy with it. Listen, it's a comic book project, so 50% of the people are going to hate it. But I'm prepared for that, and I still think it's entertaining.
I will say that you are a very balanced voice because you came in as a Marvel fan and came in to appreciate like the DC side. So if anyone's going to write this and get a balanced take out of it, it's definitely you. So
I hope so.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll see what happens tomorrow. Tomorrow's gonna be exciting.
Thank you. For sure. All right. And then just to close out, man, I wanted to plug some of the stuff that you guys are doing over at Real Blend that I started listening to the podcast. I knew about you and I knew some of like your work, your journalistic work, but started listening to your podcast as I got to know you more and more. And first of all, shout out to Jake and Kevin. Like, you three, it feels like having a bunch of legends in a podcast together. And, you know, I just want you to, well, I'll plug it myself, but if you want to just like talk about the stuff that you guys have been doing during this whole quarantine to like, you know, keep the film industry going. I think a lot of it is so important. As a fan of film, like I listen to it every week, and you guys are getting such in-depth interviews with people all around Hollywood, like from everywhere, that as a fan of film, I just really like it. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about it.
Dude, thank you so much. Honestly, I really, really appreciate you promoting it, because it's still just like a labor of love for us, you know. And it's been 2 years that we've been doing, a little bit over 2 years, so we're still kind of finding our way through it.
Yeah.
But the three of us have been very close friends for a long time. We've all been on the junket circuit, and the junket circuit is very similar to high school. It's cliquey, and we travel around a lot, and everybody sort of travels in packs, and you tend to find the people who you would relate to the most, because you spend a lot of downtime just hanging out, waiting for interviews to happen, or shuffling around from place to place. And if you listen to the show, you'll see the three of us are kind of like-minded, and we have good chemistry. But we come at interviews in particular, we come at interviews from three completely different perspectives, and that's been super refreshing when we're preparing to speak to different people. And so we go after directors a lot, and directors don't get the opportunity to go on podcasts a lot of time. Like, I'll use Capone as an example. When Josh Trank puts out a Capone movie, most people would love to talk to Tom Hardy. And while Tom Hardy would be amazing, we tend to be the podcast that's just as happy to sit down with Josh Trank.
Which was a spectacular interview, by the way.
And talk about his process, and talk about his Fantastic Four movie, and just get into all that stuff. So a lot of filmmakers will come on, and they'll suddenly understand, like, we'll give them a half an hour, and then they can relax and tell long detail, because a director is living with this stuff far longer than you, an actor. That's why to me, like, directors, producers, they're more interesting storytellers because they're immersed in this, whereas an actor, not that it's like a for hire gig, but they may bounce from project to project. So we've been lucky to have Josh Trank was on. The Russo brothers stopped by to talk about Extraction when that came to Netflix. Michael Shannon came on recently to talk about that he had coming, that was supposed to go to South by Southwest. In that, he talked about his reaction to the controversy around Man of Steel, around the ending, and how he, would never really be the type of actor to push back on the director's vision, and he believes wholeheartedly in what Zach wanted to do. We've had, let's see, our biggest get, who has become a friend of the show, is Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, that's really good.
What the heck?
we got Quentin for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and he agreed to do 2 podcasts. He did MTV, Josh Horowitz, who does great work over there.
Yeah.
And he did us, and he apparently listened to a few episodes and heard, the way that we celebrate directors and filmmaking, and to do it. And the three of us brought ourselves out to Los Angeles, and we got 20 minutes with him. We were told right before it that his favorite drink is made with Casamigos tequila, which is George Clooney's branded tequila. So we dug into our own pockets, and we paid for room service to bring up a pitcher of margaritas, and had him waiting there for him when he came in. And he sat down and shot the breeze for 20 minutes and had a blast. And at the end of it, he said, hey, we do this again. This was a lot of fun. And, that's industry speak. It's Hollywood speak for, don't ever talk to me again. But we heard through the grapevine, through Sony and through his reps, that he legitimately enjoyed that. And so a couple of months after, we sort of followed up, and we said, hey, look, if the movie does well during the awards ceremonies, if it's getting nominations, would he actually want to come back on? And they said, yeah, I think he would actually. And it got to be December around that time, and his film was getting nominated for a bunch of awards. And he said, hey, let's do our second session, which you can find under Real Blend 2, went 2 hours and 40 minutes, I think it was.
Yeah. It was awesome.
He's the best. He's the best. I mean, there's no better storyteller. Not even just like through his films, but like to just sit down and listen to him talk about his processes.
And he doesn't really do that, right? Like it's been a long time since he's even like done an in-depth interview, right?
Well, he doesn't like, I know he doesn't like, see, the traditional junket is like a TV slot, you know, where you get like 3 to 4 minutes, 4 to 5 minutes with somebody. And he's not good in that format. He's more long form, you know. If you minutes with him, you're going to get one question. Yeah. When we prepped for the 2.5 hour interview, the one that ended up being 2.5 hours, we had 35 questions, I think, over the that we had mapped out. The three of us were just going to go around and ask these questions. Yeah. We were an hour and a half into it, and we were on question 5. And like I looked down at our sheet, and I kind of got the other guy's attention because Quentin was still talking about something, and I was like, "We're on question 5. Like we got to pick this up a little bit." But then he was kind of. I think we were supposed to get 90 minutes. I think we were supposed to get 90 minutes that time, and he said we asked him a question, and he was like, "Oh, that's a great question." He goes, "Do you mind if I just break? Can I go to the bathroom?" And I said, "Quentin, you're at 90 minutes. Like we're done, kind of." And he goes, "No. We'll keep going. We'll keep going. This is great." So we said, "Oh, cool, fine." And so we ended up going 2.5, 2:40, and then after that, he just hung around, just stayed, talked.
Wow.
So it was great. It was really great, and I think. Listen, I don't know, but I think that these filmmakers know that we're passionate geeks, you know, and so
no, for sure. I mean,
they dig it.
Seriously, like the reason I really like clung on to that podcast is that you guys genuinely love film and all aspects of film. Like hearing Kevin go into his in-depth questions, like those are questions that I have in my head all the time, and like he's so knowledgeable and stuff. Like he says it in a way that I won't be able to like describe, and he's asking these questions to like directors and stuff. And there's so many like I think you guys are also like getting a name for yourselves with like. You know, what happened with Kevin Smith and Ben Affleck and all that. So, seriously, genuinely, like, thank you for doing that. Like, I think it's awesome for film. Can you talk about the T-shirt really quick? I think you still sell it? Yeah.
No, so it's not for sale anymore.
Okay, sorry.
I know. It was an exclusive one. We put on sale for 16 days.
Yeah.
It was an original design that somebody at Cinema Blend put together. It was our 4 heads silhouetted. It's a 3 host and then Gabe, who is our silent producer that we make fun of all the time. In a very loving way. He's the best. And actually is incredibly, if you listen to our social network commentary, we did one for the social network and Gabe was prevalent throughout that and adds a ton to it. We just like to bust his balls basically. It's us looking up at the Real Blend logo, and we were trying to mimic us in a theater looking at a screen because we wanted to do something to raise charity money for people in the theater industry, specifically, not Hollywood people. They don't need theater owners and theater employees, and the Will Rogers Pioneers Association specifically raises money to help theater employees who are out of work while the theaters are shut down. And we were able to raise over $1,500. So I was really thrilled about that.
I got my T-shirt. So
hey, great.
I'll be sending you a picture of it. Yeah. I think it was actually the 50th one when you were first trying to just get 50.
That's great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
No problem.
I'd rather
I'm aware of pride. For sure.
And we're kicking around an idea. One of the things that we got to do when the world was normal was meetups, and we did one in Chicago and we did one in DC. We did one in DC for our 100th episode. We recorded live at an AMC theater, and then we hang out with people at a bar afterwards. And obviously you can't do that anymore, but we're trying to come up with a virtual one, some type of virtual meeting, not a Zoom, because it's just like, it can't handle that amount of people, but we're exploring different technologies that would allow a virtual meetup where we can hang out with some of our listeners and just talk movies. That's what we do.
I think you should look into StreamYard. We just did one this morning, and like essentially you guys would stream, but then you can invite people in. So not everyone would be there at the same time, but like as you get questions, you can put them up, and I think you can bring people in along the way. There's a few different options. Hopefully that would work out. Definitely let me know when that happens. I will be there.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Perfect.
For sure. All right. So I definitely went over double the time. I apologize.
I hope it was interesting.
It was.
Dude, This was amazing. If you'll come on again, we'd love to have you on again. To keep following this book, every milestone along the way. I feel like we're becoming the voice of it. So,
Guys, I'm telling you, I cannot thank you enough for giving me a platform early on. I'm telling you, that means the world to me. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. Seriously.
Yeah, definitely.
So any final thoughts, Sean? Any final thoughts, Peely?
No, man, y'all did a great job. I shout out Sean and I shout out Gio, man. Perfect.
Thank you, Peely. Thanks for having me on Go Deep, brothers. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
All right. Hopefully we have good news tomorrow.
Fingers crossed, right?
Everything's crossed.
Take it easy, guys. Thanks.
Take it easy.
Peace.
Bye.